Hey everyone, I'm Josh Hutchinson.
And I'm Sarah Jack. Welcome to Salem Witch Trials daily YouTube course.
You're about to embark on something unique. We've spent years researching the Salem Witch Trials from primary sources, and now we're bringing you the story day by day in a video course that follows the actual timeline of the 1692 and 1693 history.
Each daily video is bite-sized, just a few minutes covering what happened on that day or exploring key topics that help you understand the context. You can watch as we release them or binge a full week at once.
Here's what makes this different. We've built a full course around these videos that will grow your expertise. Whether you want to just watch casually or dive deep with assignments and activities, you can engage at whatever level works for you.
Every week, we release Standard Edition and Student Edition workbooks and a blog post on aboutsalem.com. The blog recaps the week's content and gives you the big picture. The workbook is where the real learning happens if you want to go deeper.
The workbook has fill-in-the-blank summaries, reflection questions, vocabulary building, quote scavenger hunts, and 4 weekly challenges. You'll make predictions, practice citing evidence, write character journals, and share what you've learned.
We also have a weekly podcast, The Thing About Salem, that explores topics beyond the daily timeline. The workbook includes optional activities for the podcast episode too.
As you progress, you earn achievement badges you can share on social media. Start with hashtag Salem Daily Student. Track your weekly progress with hashtag Salem Week 1, hashtag Salem Week 2, and work toward mid-course badges like Salem Daily Researcher and completion badges like hashtag Salem Daily Grad.
And here's something special. If you're descended from someone involved in the Salem Witch Trials, like we are, we have a parallel descendant track with its own badges and recognitions. You can honor your family's connection while learning the history.
No matter when you're watching this, you can start anytime and work at your own pace. All the published videos, blogs, and workbooks are always available. We're releasing them weekly following the 1692 timeline during 2026 to 2027. But you don't have to keep up. Go at your own speed.
Head to aboutsalem.com to download this week's workbook and read the blog. All the resources, recommended books, and ways to support this nonprofit work are linked there.
This is a 75-week journey covering all of 1692 and 1693. Whether you're doing the full course or just following along, you're part of the community exploring this history together.
So welcome. We're glad you're here. Let's dive into the Salem Witch Trials together.
The Salem Witch Trials produced at least 156 formal accusations, 30 convictions, and 20 executions. Some sources suggest accusers named more than 200 people as witches, though not all were prosecuted. It all started in mid-January 1692 in the household of Salem village minister Samuel Parris.
His 9-year-old daughter, Betty, and 11-year-old niece, Abigail Williams, began behaving strangely. They barked like dogs, quacked like ducks, and flapped around like geese, pretending to fly.
And doctors couldn't diagnose what was wrong. And strangely as well, Betty and Abigail were the only ones in the household of 8 people to exhibit these symptoms. The parents never got sick. Betty's siblings didn't get sick. One of the enslaved individuals in the household, John Indian, did eventually show symptoms, but not right away. So this mysterious illness in the minister's house would go on to spark a panic that consumed the colony. And we have a lot of great content coming up on future episodes of Salem Witch Trials Daily. We'll be going into a lot of the different factors that created the perfect storm that allowed the witch trials to happen.
You're going to learn about the events as they unfolded. The daily videos follow the chronological timetable of the witch hunt.
This helps to understand the scope of the witch trials and the context of how and why they happened as they did.
You will experience the stories of the real people involved in the trials. Are they your ancestors?
We'll investigate the unparalleled conviction rate in the Salem Witch Trials. In 1692, 27 out of 27 individuals tried were convicted. We'll go through the records of the Salem Witch Trials as they were created, the dates that the events happened. We'll walk through all the legal records, which the first document was February 29th, the warrant for the arrest of Sarah Good, and the warrant for Sarah Osborne and Tituba was also that day. And then the trials actually didn't start until June of 1692 and lasted all the way through May of 1693, an entire year of trials.
This isn't just a video series, it's a comprehensive course research from primary sources by Josh and I.
And along with these videos, students get weekly workbooks with activities, exercises, and challenges.
We have the standard edition and the student edition.
So everyone can watch the daily videos. They're available on YouTube, available on where you get your podcasts. You can read the weekly blogs and just follow along at your own pace. There's no timetable to any of this course. You aren't going to be graded.
Whether you dive deep or follow casually, you are welcome here. Reach out and tell us how it's going with your learning.
Here's a taste of Salem Witch Trials Daily. So we've been podcasting about witch trials for about 3.5 years now, and people are always asking what caused the witch trials, particularly the Salem witch trials. Was it this ergot poisoning that we hear about with the LSD-like substance? Or did everybody catch hysteria and just lose their minds? We'll discuss some of the key reasons in today's episode of Salem Witch Trials Daily. I'm Josh Hutchinson.
And I'm Sarah Jack. As of January 2nd, 1692, the Salem Witch Trials were not yet underway. So we'll be bringing you topical episodes until the action picks up.
To set the stage for when the trials do happen, here are 5 of the most significant factors that led to these saga.
The belief in witchcraft was nearly universal. Even trial critics did not refute the existence of witches. Those defending accused witches believed in witchcraft.
They did. And I want to point out here, too, that this belief in witchcraft was not just limited to people in Massachusetts. It wasn't limited to Puritans. It was nearly universal in all of Europe at the time that this was happening, regardless of which denomination the people involved were. And then the second factor that led to the witch trials or contributed to the rise and spread of the witch trials was war and the accompanying sickness that came along with it. King Philip's War had been fought in the 1670s and was the deadliest war per capita in the history of what is now the United States. And King William's War was now being fought in 1690s, primarily in northern New England.
So that was the experience of those that were involved in witch trials, these wars.
These wars, and King William's War was when a large smallpox outbreak occurred. It started with soldiers who were trying to invade Quebec, and they came home, hundreds of them, sick with smallpox. And we'll see later down the road that that smallpox did contribute to some witchcraft accusations.
Andover.
And
the economy is the third factor we're going to talk about.
yeah, the economy was ravaged by colonial debt because these wars were so expensive. They literally had to start printing money for the first time in Massachusetts to pay for this debt. So the taxes were very high. There's a high burden on the residents. And residents and the colony itself had suffered direct financial losses heavily due to these wars. You think about the destruction of property, the loss of income.
Loss really seems to contribute to witchcraft accusations.
Indeed. The fourth factor we want to talk about today is social tensions. Of course, you have the usual tensions between neighbors, but these were heightened by the anxieties being felt at the economically precarious time. It was a precarious time in general for the colony. We'll talk about that more in later episodes, why the colony itself was on edge. And there were increased social tensions because war refugees had moved to Massachusetts, mostly to Essex County, which is the northernmost county in the Massachusetts Bay Colony. And that's where Salem is. So they had all this influx of people come down to Salem and surrounding towns.
The last factor that we're going to touch on today is religious anxieties.
A feeling had been growing among many of the Massachusetts ministers that the colony and its residents were backsliding on Christianity, that they didn't have the faith of the founders who had first settled in the 1620s and 30s, that this generation by 1692, it's the third generation of people. Some people are even fourth generations being born. And the ministers just thought that these aren't the men that founded this colony that we revered because their faith was so strong. We feel like the faith is crumbling away. So that was a big source of religious anxiety throughout the colony. And then locally in Salem Village, there was intense controversy over the minister. For 2 decades, they squabbled over who to be minister. Nobody lasted more than a few years. And in 1692, Samuel Parris was the minister, and it seemed like at least half of the community was against him. And these 5 factors that we've talked about today aren't the only things that were contributing to fueling the witch trials. There was this anxiety I alluded to a minute ago that was political in nature because the status of the colony was up in the air. Salem Witch Trials Daily is presented by the Thing About Salem and the Thing About Witch Hunts podcasts.